Hello mi gente and welcome back to Nata Knows Best. So today we're going to be making sweet plantain empanadas. So these are slightly different than my Puerto Rican empanada recipe that I've posted before, because instead of using a flaky flour dough in this empanada, we're actually going to be making our own dough using the sweet plantains. So this is going to be more of a sweet and savory version because we're definitely going to be filling our empanadas with our picadillo, which is our ground beef, and we're gonna have that sweet crust, which putting them both together is super delicious. So let's get into it. Sweet plantain empanadas are nothing new. These are actually super popular all throughout the Caribbean and Latin America. This specific recipe that we're going to be making today is obviously going to be inspired by my Puerto Rican roots. So we're going to jump right in. To make our sweet plantain empanadas, we have to make our dough first. So here I have 2 sweet plantains. And if you've never worked with plantains before, you have ripe plantains, which are these. They're the sweeter version. And then you have your regular plantains, which are green. So when you're looking for a sweet plantain, you want to look for one that is more on the yellow side. And if it has black marks, that's also a great indicator that it's going to be very sweet. So the first thing that we're going to do is cut the tips of our plantain. Usually I would peel the skins off the plantain, but today I'm actually going to be keeping the skins on, and I'm just going to place our plantains in a pot with some boiling water, and I'm going to boil them for about 10 minutes just until the insides are nice and soft. Alright, so our plantains are looking nice and soft. As you can see, even the skins have split. So I'm just going to place them in a bowl so they can cool. Alright, so we have our sweet plantains cooling, and as they're actually doing that, I'm going to go ahead and remove the skins. Look how simple this is. It makes it so much easier to do the peeling after because naturally the skin just softens and it slips off just like that. Now that our plantains are done cooling, I'm going to start on the next step, which is creating the dough. So I have a potato masher and I'm going to just soften our plantains. You could also use a fork if that's easier. Next, I'm going to season our dough. So the first thing you want to do is actually try your plantains. And if your plantains weren't as ripe as you would want them to be, you can go ahead and sprinkle in some sugar. That'll give it that extra bit of sweetness to really offset the picadillo. And then to also accent the sweetness of your plantains, go ahead and add in some vanilla extract. So I'm just about done mashing our plantains, and the key to creating the perfect dough for this empanada recipe is to make sure that when you're smashing your plantains, you smash them to the point that they are fully smooth. You don't want to have too many chunks in there. And you'll actually notice the more you smash them, the more they release their own starches. They're very much like potatoes, where it doesn't really take a lot of ingredients to form them into a dough. So to finish our dough, I'm going to sprinkle in some flour, and I'm gonna do this slowly. And I'm gonna make sure that it's incorporated well. And this is just going to dry out the dough a bit. You'll know that you added the right amount of flour and that your dough is complete when you grab a handful of the dough, and when you squeeze it, it maintains its shape. It's actually pretty moist still, and even when you flatten it, it doesn't crack. So this is ideally what you're looking for in your dough. Now let's get to assembling. So you just want to grab a handful of your dough and press it down. You can press it with your hands, like I've done here, or you can use a rolling pin. Then in the center of our dough, I'm going to add our picadillo. Again, if you guys are looking for a good picadillo recipe, I will be linking mine at the top of this video. And then as an extra treat, I'm actually going to add a little bit of mozzarella cheese to the center of these. If you guys remember back to my pastelón video, which was the sweet plantain lasagna, it had very similar flavors to this. It obviously had the sweet plantain, it had my homemade picadillo, and it also had little cheesy goodness to it. So I kind of want to replicate that same flavor profile and add a little bit of cheese to this. And then by using our parchment paper, I'm going to carefully fold one edge over the other. So let's assemble another one, just from another angle. So again, grab about a palm full of the dough, shape it into a ball, and then using the bottom of your palms, go ahead and spread it out. You can make these however big or small you like. And then to our centers, add in your picadillo. Next, sprinkle in some cheese. I think that's good. And then again, using the edge of your parchment paper, you want to roll it over to the other edge. Let's move that one over, but this is how exactly you kind of want it to look like. Crimp your edges. If you have any messiness, do it to the opposite direction. And there you go. So I finished assembling our empanadas and I'm about to put them in the fryer, but before I do, I want to sprinkle just a bit of flour over them to make sure they don't stick. Here I have a pan with some oil. I would say it's roughly about 1 inch deep. You don't want to shallow fry these because they may fall apart, so it's best to deep fry them or fry them in a skillet just with a larger amount of oil. And let the frying begin. And you want to fry your empanadas roughly 3 to 4 minutes on each side, just until they turn a nice light brown color, the way a fried sweet plantain would. Go ahead and transfer your sweet plantain empanadas to a paper plate that has some paper towels on it just to absorb that extra oil. All right, mi gente, so I just finished frying up our sweet plantain empanadas. You can actually see them in the background, they're still cooling. But just to give you guys a taste test, here I have one. I sliced into it and I'm going to pull it apart. Look at that. We have our meat, we have a bit of our cheese. Here we go. That savory and that sweet together taste so delicious. This is a foolproof recipe that you're going to love using in these empanadas. They're slightly sweet and the cheesiness, it really does taste like a pastelón in a empanada form. So if you guys love this recipe, go ahead and like, comment, share, subscribe to this channel. I will be linking this recipe to my playlist, which is Nata Knows Boricua. This is a playlist that is dedicated to all of my favorite Puerto Rican recipes. So that picadillo recipe, along with my traditional empanadillas, the pastelón recipe, pretty much any Puerto Rican recipe that you can think of will be on that playlist. So go ahead and watch that from beginning to end. I will also be linking this recipe to my websites, which is nataknowsbest.com. This is my website where I have all of the full ingredients and measurements to all of the recipes that you see on this channel. Stay tuned for next week for another delicious recipe. And as always, mi gente, thank you so much for watching. Nata Knows Best.